Zaldrizes buzdaris gosdau.
Alright, we have 3 episodes left of House of the Dragon Season 1. Before I jump into the contents of this video, it's not going to be very long. I've been pumping out content like a madman. But before I jump into that, do yourself a favor. If you enjoy my stuff, obviously if you don't enjoy my stuff and this video just randomly popped up in your feed, well, thank you for clicking on it because that means my shadow ban is coming to an end. So please subscribe, help me get to 100,000. But ultimately, like, that's kind of what I'm getting at. If you want content to entertain you throughout the wait for House of the Dragon Season 2, throughout the wait for Winds of Winter, throughout the wait for the Jon Snow show, and eventually Daenerys returning, over here on this channel, it's known as the Long Nights. Let me do that again. That was weak as shit. Long Nights. So yeah, just go ahead and subscribe. Do yourself a favor. I'm going to keep pumping out this content. Also, consider checking out my Patreon for additional content that's never going to be uploaded to YouTube. You can join for as little as $1 and listen to the 3 episodes that I've already put out so far of my podcast titled Leaks and Lore. And I will eventually upload some of those here to YouTube. But if you want to get them now and can't wait, consider checking out my Patreon and join for, like I said, as little as $1. It's linked down below in the description. Or over on patreon.com/SirHuntsReviews. Okay, so this video is going to be 4 major things that are going to happen in the last 3 episodes. Even though the next one's episode 8, we still have episode 8, 9, and 10. So the last 3 episodes of House of the Dragon Season 1. These things will definitely happen. They for sure will, right? So the first one is obviously, we've gotten several images of this. We know it's probably going to be happening in episode 9. So not this upcoming episode, but the one after that. The Black Council. So if you're unaware, you haven't been paying attention, Viserys is on his way to death's door. Like, literally within the next 3 episodes, he's going to just die. He's going to fall out. So in the books, what happens is usually around the hour of the bat, King Viserys is known to take a cup of hippocras, and his servant who brings him that hippocras continues as usual in 129 AC, like when he dies, right? Continues as usual to bring him that cup of hippocras, and then, oh my God, the king is dead. He discovers the king is dead. So he immediately alerts Alicent, and Alicent continues to tell nobody. She has any of the servants or any of the people that are not on her council, known as the Green Council, right? Anybody that's not part of the Queen's party gets locked up and thrown in a cell, right? And then they have something called the Green Council, which I am explaining that, and I said I was going to be explaining the Black Council, but guess what? They're intermingled, right? So the Green Council happens first. So you kind of have to explain that in order to get to the Black Council. So Alicent calls her banners, so to speak. She calls all the members of the Queen's Party and the King's Small Council and informs them, hey, the king is dead. Right? There's a few defectors that are for Rhaenyra, but for the most part, because Alicent has been stationed in King's Landing with her sons, with her father, hand of the king, Sir Otto, she's got the upper hand. Like anybody that's loyal to Rhaenyra, she mostly captures them, locks them up, and actually keeps Viserys' death a secret for 1 week. So one of the first things she does after he dies, after she calls the council, is look for Aemond. Right? So Aemond is quoted as saying, are we going to have to bend the knee to that old whore's cunny? Are we going to have to, like, you know, make Rhaenyra the queen? And then, Helena's response when they go to her to try to find Aegon too, she says, well, he's certainly not in my bed, right? You feel free to check underneath the covers in the blanket. He's not here, right? And then when they finally find Aegon too to start the process of crowning him, he's discovered in I believe it's a rat's nest in Flea Bottom, and he's getting sucked off while watching 2 people go at it, right? So Aegon, he's a window jacker, right? They stepped it up to a 10 on this show, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's just jacking himself off watching 2 people go at it, and there probably is like maybe some kinky foreplay or something going on, right? It's going to be really funny. But what he says is, I don't want the crown. It's Rhaenyra's. Like, how, you want me to usurp my sister's crown, right? So that's really interesting. So Aegon too has to be convinced by his mother Alicent to take the crown, and then he kind of, well, he accepts it, and then he ends up getting impatient and asks his mother, right, because she's waiting a week until after King Viserys dies. She's like, am I king or not? Crown me. So then finally Alicent crowns Aegon II in the Dragon Pit with something like 30 to 40,000 people watching. And we just saw the Dragon Pit in the episode, I believe it was episode 5, right? So we know that Well, actually, no, it was episode 6, right? So we know that the setting is there, the setting and location. They've already set it up. They've shown us how big it is. They've shown us this is basically, hey, this is where Aegon's going to be crowned at. And then something that actually happens to the Green Council is Lyman Beesbury has his throat slit or he's pushed out of a window. But one thing's for certain is that he dies. And the reason why he dies, Lyman Beesbury is the fellow in the small council who's fallen asleep a few times. But the reason why he dies is because everybody's like, oh yeah, we're going to crown Aegon. And then he's like, you mean our queen? We're going to crown Rhaenyra. We know Viserys named her his heir. And then as soon as he gets that out, he goes to stand up and sort of walk out, and he's like, I'm not going to be a part of this. And that's when Kristen Cole slams him down in his seat and slits his throat, or picks him up and chucks him from the window. Honestly, I would like to see a combination of both. Like, it would just be funny. Like, I can completely remove myself and be impartial and, like, be greens one moment, black the next, and ultimately I have the reader's choice of, like, who to pick and who to decide. There's, like, the benefit of knowing the outcome of this story. You know, hey, I'm going to lean one way this side and lean one way the other, right? So the show's kind of switching it around. But either way, Lyman Beesbury is probably going to get his throat slit and then tossed out of the window to die on the spikes below Maegor's holdfast. So, there's been a few different characters that have died that way. Helena is going to die that way. And then, so, Alicent has a week to prepare for Viserys, a week to prepare for Aegon II's crowning because Viserys dies, and what ends up happening is when she goes to send Jaehaerys and Viserys' crown away, like Aegon II decides he wants to be crowned with Aegon the Conqueror's crown, right? His namesake. So when Alicent sends Jaehaerys and Viserys' crown, the crown that we've seen Viserys wearing the entirety of the show, when she has it sent away, that's when Rhaenyra's defectors capture it and take it to her. And we saw it's Eric Cargill who's going to, give Rhaenyra her father's crown and then also deliver the news that her father's dead. And this is literally going to be happening in episode 9. Like, I doubt it's going to be happening in episode 8. We saw Viserys swings open the door, right? We know that there's a big brawl between the blacks and the greens, and I'm going to have a video breaking down the episode 8 trailer coming out here soon. But this one, I just wanted to talk about the things that I'm most excited to see that have to happen from the book, right? So we kind of talked about the Green Council. I'm starting to talk about the Black Council. So after Rhaenyra gets her crown, she has a very opposite version of Aegon. So Aegon's crowning is supposed to be this big event, right? He's got like 40,000 people watching, citizens in the King's Landing. He's crowned in the Dragon Pit with Aegon the Conqueror's crown, and he's most likely going to have Aegon the Conqueror's Blackfire, right? His sword as well, right? And, I wouldn't be surprised if he does actually have the cat's paw dagger with him too, and then eventually that finds its way to Daemon, and Daemon uses it to kill Aemond, but ultimately that's going to be a very party-like affair, and then it's going to be juxtaposed by Rhaenyra's Black Council, right? So the councils will probably be an episode or two apart, right? And one of the big things that happens at Rhaenyra's council is they make war plans. They immediately start deciding, how are we going to go about this to secure my throne from Aegon II, who's usurped it, right? One of the first things she says is, well, I've got to send my sons as envoys to go and try to get an army behind me. Like, when the war first starts out, they're sort of afraid to kind of go too far. Like, they want to kind of just say, look, the realm is backing me. I have the most support. Like, bend the knee and, like, go to the Night's Watch, or, like, you're a traitor, you're treasonous, right? So they both parties try to do that. The Greens try to do that. The Blacks try to do that. So Rhaenyra decides to send her sons on their dragons as envoy because that would be the best way to get support, right? So Rhaenyra is sending her own children on their own dragons to go and act as envoys. So she decides to send her oldest son, Jacaerys, on the more dangerous mission, which would be a longer trip and is considered more dangerous because Rhaenyra doesn't necessarily know where these great houses' alliances will lay, right? So she sends Jacaerys to the Vale, she sends him to White Harbor, and then the north, right? So that's a far more dangerous trip because she doesn't really know where they're going to ally with. And she decides to send Lucerys on the much, much safer trip to Storm's End, to House Baratheon, who literally is pledged to the Blacks via Rhaenys, right? The queen who never was. So when she does this, thinking it's the safer option, big mistake. Huge. Big mistake. So what ends up happening is obviously Aemond is already there. Remember, the Greens have already had a week time jump, like a week ahead of Rhaenyra to plan their moves. So, Aegon ends up sending Aemond to Storm's End. And when Lucerys arrives there, he's not expecting Aemond. But he does see Vhagar in the castle yard and then proceeds to go in about the envoy. So he knows, hey, this is bad, right? Remember, Lucerys is the one who took Aemond's eye. And whether you want to be greens or blacks, Aemond stole Vhagar, but not really. Vhagar allowed herself to be claimed by Aemond, and then remember, they insulted Aemond first and attacked him first, and then he kind of like was defending himself initially, but then took it a step further. So this meeting between Lucerys, the kid who took Aemond's eye, and between Aemond, MILF Hunter, is going to be amazing. The stand down they have will be awesome. The dialogue they exchange will be amazing, and we all know what happens. Aemond puts a sapphire in that nasty cut of his and pulls it off and reveals it in such an amazing way. It's going to be awesome. There's no way they didn't put some sort of gem or blue-like thing in his eye. If they didn't, and he doesn't reveal it then, maybe we'll petition them to reveal it in the Battle Above the God's Eye when Aemond ultimately goes out. And then Boros Baratheon is said to flow like the wind, and he propositions Lucerys to say, hey, which one of my daughters are you going to marry? And he's like, I'm already betrothed to someone else. I'm sorry, but I'm here to, act as an envoy. And then obviously Aemond stops him, and he's like, hold strong, and give me that eye. I need that eye. I'm going to put it in my eye. I'm going to go to the maesters and have surgery to have your eye put back in as my eye so I can be aiming 2 eyes. I'm just kidding. That's not. It's obviously not what happens. He says, hold strong. Give me that eye. He says, not both of them, just one, because I'm not that much of a dickle, right? And then obviously Boros steps in and says, not in my house. Dikembe Mutombo, right? He's literally like, no, this is not happening here. And then Lucerys is allowed to leave. He gets on his dragon Arax, and there's a storm, right? This whole area is called Storm's End, Shipbreaker Bay, because there's these massive hurricane-type events that literally destroy people who try to, land ashore in Storm's End. So Arax has trouble staying afloat. Lucerys is smaller than Aemond. His dragon is smaller than Vhagar, obviously, but should there have not been a storm, he would have been way faster and wouldn't have been able to get away. So obviously, after Lucerys leaves, gets on his dragon Arax and, mounts the sky, Aemond's like, oh, I can go too now. And then Boros is like, dude, I can't tell you what to do if you are not in my house. So Aemond goes and mounts Vhagar. Vhagar is way bigger. The storm doesn't affect Vhagar in her flying capabilities, and she takes out Lucerys. And we've seen images, I'm showing you those right now. We've seen art depictions, but this is going to be one of the most traumatic events of the show. Like, we'll probably look at all the other events and then compare it to Lucerys' death with Aemond above Storm's End as like a jumping off point. Like, is it as tragic as this event, or is it not? I think what makes it, or what's going to make it so crazy, and I kind of forgot to mention this because I got caught up in, trying to be funny. There's an exchange between Flores. There's Boros Baratheon has 3 daughters. They're known as, 4 daughters, known as the 4 Storms. Who knows? I think there's been 3 that were cast. But anyway, one of them is going to egg on Aemond into making the exchange. I'm sorry, Bella. I'm almost done, I promise. They're going to basically egg him on into doing something way worse, right? He may not have done something if they haven't said something. And I think that's going to be put into the show because that's what makes characters great. It's like Aemond, ultimately doesn't want to do something horrible because he is a convoy, but he's going to be egged on by Boros Baratheon's daughters because he probably does something mean to them when he first arrives and by choosing his sister, right? So one of them is going to say, oh, you should have, I'm glad my sister chose you because I would like someone with all of their parts, basically saying like, I want someone with some balls, right? And when she says that, that's when he goes and hops on his dragon Vhagar and then kills him. Then supposedly there's rumors that he cuts Lucerys' head off, and then brings it back and serves that daughter and like, is this ballsy enough for you, baby? How about these balls? I'm sorry, Bella, I'm almost done, I promise. And then the other thing that could happen is Lucerys potentially survives the encounter, washes up ashore, and survives as a simple-minded fisherman, right? And then another thing that'll be happening, and I kind of skipped over it, but I still need to talk about, is Viserys' death, right? So we know what happens at the Black Council, we know what happens at the Green Council, we know what happens with Lucerys' death. The other thing is Viserys' death. So I kind of mentioned it, right? He takes a cup of Hippocras in the hour of the wolf or the hour of the bat. I can never remember which hour it is. And some of the rumors surrounding that is that Alicent hurried him along with a pinch of poison. That's probably going to be true. Maybe not Alicent, but Larys. Larys is literally going to poison Aegon II at the end of this story, and it would just be so much more poetic if he's poisoned his father, right? Larys he has some motivation in working on a video for him, right? But it just, actually, as a matter of fact, I've already talked about him a good chunk for about 20 minutes in one of my podcasts over on patreon.com/SirHuntsReview. So go and listen to that now for, join for as little as $1. But it's, Viserys, in my opinion, is being poisoned this whole time by the Maesters. I believe Alicent may not know it. Otto may not even know it, but it just, he's got some kind of sick Westerosi disease, and him dying isn't going to ultimately be the cause of that disease that he's suffering from, because it's allowed him to live for 20 years. I don't think it's just going to suddenly, kill him. I think it's meant to, whatever the type of poison they're using is meant to give him a long, agonizing death. So I think the thing that will finally push him over the edge is either, via the command of Alicent to have Larys poison his Hippocrates. But just think about it. Sir Otto and Larys are on the small council, and of course Larys would get, and I'm showing you this clip of Helena doing the, spider trap, catching it. Then the camera cuts to Alicent and also, more importantly, Larys, right? He's setting up a trap, and Helena's seeing a vision of it. She just can't help but, act it out, right? It gives her madness. She's got these dragon dreams, right? But yeah, trust me, Larys is setting a trap. Vibes from Sir Otto that he wants his grandson to sit the Iron Throne, and that Viserys is a foolish king. So it's going to be an amalgamation of Alicent, Sir Otto, and of course Larys the Clubfoot. I cannot wait to see how the king actually dies. We know he's going to die. You all let me know what you think down below in the comment section if you agree that, these events are going to go down the way that I've explained them. And then also, which one are you most excited for? Thank you so much for watching. Please slap a like on this video and then subscribe. I'm really close to reaching 100,000 here on YouTube. That'll get my channel verified, and I should no longer be shadow banned. If you don't believe me about the shadow ban thing, make sure you're incognito mode. Go type in House of the Dragon, and you'll see none of my videos show up. And they're getting views. They're getting likes. YouTube is just, for whatever reason, shadow banning my channel. So hopefully that'll end once I reach 100,000 here on YouTube. Thank you for watching. Alon natin sa Risa Spustari Exostao.